No. The king of interiors, Laurence Llewelyn-Bowen, joins us now. I mean, we actually talked about it in makeup and stuff. It's such a great show.
It's a feast.
And the perfect show for you. I can't imagine anybody else doing this show.
I feel like finally, Laurence, you are in your element. Like, there's nothing...
I've got my context.
Yes, these are your people, your tribe.
Yeah, well, it's taken 30 years, as you very unkindly point out. But it's nice to know that I finally got my tribe. But I think that was one of the lovely things about it, was turning up, because, you know, it was a very simple idea as far as I was concerned. It was no kind of crazy, complicated telliness. Let's just make a programme that's not about property values, that's not about people's journeys, about trying to, you know, bring the builders back or whatever. Let's just celebrate people who want where they live to be a reflection of who they are, regardless of who the hell they are, you know. And some of them really want to just express themselves in very, very different ways. And the whole thing was lovely because we just turn up and people were so happy to talk about their lives and talk about where all this comes from, so generous with their stories.
Yeah.
It's a real, but it's a celebration of colour and eccentricity and joy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you described it, you wanted to be very much like Eurotrash.
That was always in the back of my mind. I had Antoine de Caunes at the back of my mind. You know, and that was such an iconic show back in the 80s and 90s because it broke through the greyshness. And I think that one of the things about television at the moment, and don't take this the wrong way, but there is a lot of beige around.
No,
but I think particularly in the property genre, it's either to do with value, which I think is irrelevant these days. You know, we've all got far bigger fish to fry than worry about how we can get another couple of thousand, you know, for our house or whatever. Or it's about this sort of idea that, you know, people have got to deserve a makeover or work hard to change things. What's lovely about this is that these are guys that changed it, and that we just go around there for tea. You know, we don't have any of that kind of sweaty sitting in the front garden, staple gunning bits to...
Poor old
Linda. Poor old Linda.
Poor old Linda. He's working her socks off right now. He does need our help.
But it is one of those weird things. I think we're so inclined to think, OK, what's going to be the least offensive to everybody and what's going to make us the most money at the end of it? But these people, whether you're talking about Dawn or Estelle or... They are truly living in the moment, which everybody tells us to do. They're, like, absolutely embracing who they are, and they want a place that they can come back to, feel comfortable, and it's an expression of who they are.
And, of course, most of them, you don't even tell from the outside.
No.
So these are, you know, so it's not a showy-offy thing at all. This is an internal space for their internal space up here. And, you know, I mean, I'm not encouraging everyone to do it just like that, but maybe relax a little bit, you know, have a little bit more fun.
Let's talk about some of the properties, because I think the first property we see is the Treasure Island house.
I know.
Which is just spectacular. When you walk into any sort of house where there's a swimming pool slap bang in the middle of it.
It doesn't happen often, but it should happen more, I think. Yeah, I mean, and what's so wonderful about Dawn, who lives there, is that it's not even a house that she created. So this was made for Felix Dennis, who is this, you know, incredibly louche publisher.
This one here.
This one here. Yeah. And yet she is happy to occupy this with all his crazy piratage. And what I loved about it was the fact that this big Treasure Island theme, but then Dawn just brings in her furniture.
Yes.
So it's kind of like her furniture, like most people's furniture. You know, she didn't even try to go piratey with it. You know, she's just about owning it, and she does, floating up and down on her lilo with a glass of champagne. Why not?
In the front room there. This is, I mean, but was this the first time she'd been in the pool?
That was the first time she'd been in the pool. She'd been there for about 3 or 4 years, and I mean, you just think, why, Dawn? Why? But I mean, don't you just love that? Because so often you go around to somebody's house and they're so quick to show everything off, and, you know, but Dawn's just floating around, you know, just doing Dawn.
Yeah.
Just being Dawn.
And then you've got other people like Estelle, who was in the 70s house, and it's like through and through.
Absolutely.
She is in the 70s, from what she eats to what she wears to how she decorates.
Big commitment. And, you know, and actually she's very interesting because there is, you know, there's healing behind that. You know, she says in the programme, you know, she was quite recently diagnosed with autism. Yeah. She had various issues with growing up, and this is her way of almost like rebooting where she is. But it's something that, you know, she's doing under her own steam and under her own terms.
And also not spending a fortune on it as well. That's one of the things that strikes me about a lot of these houses, that they do a lot of the work themselves.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that's got all the fish tanks.
Whoa,
Laurence.
Jack.
Jack with the fish tanks. I can't quite remember how many it was in total.
Yeah.
But also the engineering of that fish tank there, and how much cubic square footage of meterage of poundage of pressure, the whole road would fall down if it collapses.
I mean, this is what was so incredibly impressive. I mean, he's not an engineer. He doesn't come from any kind of background like that, but he just finds it out.
Yeah.
You know, he finds it out so he can do it. And then the really weird thing, and this is so outrageous, home, so he builds this enormous, enormous fish tank, and you think it's going to be like The Little Mermaid in there, and, you know, beautiful fish and kind of everyone doing a samba. Actually, these are these ghastly grey things that he's fished out of the local river that are probably used to swimming around upturned shopping trolleys. You know, these are bottom feeders. So by the time I get in there, I'm the most gorgeous thing in there. You know, they're all kind of going, what is that?
You did climb in. And
I did.
This is what I love.
Yeah.
This is actually his front room as well. He's got an open tank in his front room.
Yeah.
But you're in one of your beautiful suits, Laurence.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into latex, am I? You know, talk about the chub rub. You know, that's not going to work. But I'm not a very good swimmer, actually. It was quite sort of... there I am.
The glamour of telly.
Locks. Love the fact I've still got my sunglasses on. Yeah, no, but it was very kind of... Everyone was going, would you go in? And I went, well, of course I'm going to go in. You know, I've got to be... That's it. That's part of it.
What everyone will be desperate to understand, though, and I know that you've done a series at your house, is what is the Llewelyn-Bowen household like? Is this a sort of a sense of what you and Jackie do at home?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, with the decoration. Just in terms of, have you got sort of outrageous pieces here and there? So,
this is what the most wonderful experience in the world. After 30 years on television, at 60, I can now say that my house looks tame next to these people. Because, you know, yes, we live in this sort of, you know, fantasy environment that expresses us, but actually, you know, compared to the absolute bravery, the bravura of some of the outrageous homeowners who really don't actually ever see that they need to hold themselves back. And we, you know, I mean, as you know, we live with our children, we live with our grandchildren, so there's a sort of a background to family life. It's kind of a little bit mafia in many ways, I suppose.
Right.
A little bit cult, a little bit kind of, you know, little manor house on the prairie. But, you know, it is all about actually making sure that you do what you want to do. And our house is Cotswold Manor House, it's listed, but that, you know, these are problems that you can surmount. These are things you can do.
And if somebody watches it, and everybody who watches it will enjoy it without a shadow of a doubt, but if they watch it and they turn around and go, ooh, and they get like a bit of a glint in their eye and they think, ooh, I quite fancy doing something here. What would be your tips? Like, how would you kind of make it a little bit more practical?
Well, I think the big thing is, you know, what will happen, I think, is a lot of people will just want to turn the volume up on what they're doing already.
Yes.
And I think that if that happens, my work on this planet is finally done. I have literally rubbed off on planet Earth and I'll be back to wherever I came from. Because I think, you know, lockdown kind of started it. I think when people were stuck in rooms that they felt were very grey and didn't really reflect
a lot of your contributors started.
That's what they did, and that actually, if you're looking around and thinking, I haven't got the bravery to do it, but then you see people who've gone absolutely right to the other end of the spectrum, you know, it can be something that's a bit empowering, because we don't need to have rooms that have a telephone voice. You know, we don't need to have these spaces that are about, you know, keeping up with the Joneses anymore or impressing estate agents or anything like that. Actually, we've got one try at it, and your home is the only space in your world that you can control yourself. You know, it's absolutely all about your decisions. The minute you step outside your front door, people are judging you. But when you're in your own home, you can be what on earth you want to be.
That's what's so...
Marie Antoinette or Gary Antoinette, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Marie Antoinette. I love a lot of these houses. From the outside, you won't have any idea what's going on behind
So
the front
Brit,
doors.
isn't it? It's so Brit.
It's Outrageous Homes. It's on tonight on Channel 4, 10 o'clock. Make sure you watch it. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Pour gin.
Pour gin.
Pour gin. Enjoy. Visual feast.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.